I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. I would like to welcome my guest, Linda Goldstein. Linda is the very, very first former mayor to appear on this show. Linda was the mayor of Clayton, Missouri, and she's been named as one of the 25 most influential women in business in St. Louis. She's got a master's degree in counseling, psychology. So very many credentials. How do you go from what is the pathway that takes somebody from being mayor to being a Vistage chair? Is
Yeah,
it just
that's
like running a smaller town at that point, or?
yeah. And during the time that I was mayor, I ran a commercial flooring contractor. It was my husband's family's company, and I'm the in-law, and I ended up in charge. It was a great experience. I was a business person, but I believed in giving back to the community. And I became mayor because I thought that that was the best way to impact the community. And what I found in the experience of business and government, I had just a wealth of leadership experiences and lessons. And I just felt like it was something that I wanted to share with other business people and other elected officials, actually. So when I decided to start my own consulting business, and I did a lot of work with small businesses and with government entities. This was after I left being mayor. And so the pandemic came and Vistage called me, and I was familiar with Vistage because I knew a lot of the chairs, actually, and I never was a member, and we can talk about that later. I
Sure.
wish I had been, but when the pandemic came along, I got a call from a recruiter, and I thought, oh my gosh, a light bulb just went off, and it was like collective wisdom. We have got to get some collective wisdom. None of us knows individually what to do with this and how to act. And so it made so much sense to me, the Vistage model. And I trained and went to Chair Academy during the pandemic on Zoom. And I launched my first CEO group on Zoom because it was still the pandemic.
And I have met chairs who it just so happened that they became chairs during the time of pandemic. That was not their intention or what they thought was going to happen. But
Mhm.
you actually chose it, which is amazing. And but what was your thought process that said that not only am I going to do this, but man, now's the time.
Well, it was really because of the pandemic and the collective wisdom, but also I was telling my clients that they had to figure out their version of curbside pickup. Whatever
Hmm.
their business was, they had to figure out their curbside pickup. And I thought they had to pivot. So when Genevieve, the recruiter, called me, I was like, oh, this is my pivot. This is my curbside pickup. Uh, I need to do this because my clients were very conservative. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to have retreats. They didn't want to have
Right.
do strategic planning, nothing. And the same thing with government. And so I thought, well, I can do this on Zoom and it makes so much sense. I really believe in it now from the necessity that the pandemic made.
What was it like for you? What was it like for you recruiting during the pandemic? I imagine that that also presented a unique challenge.
It did. It really did. And we were all adjusting to it. But I was having these conversations on Zoom, and some of the members I actually never met until the spring, until, we were able to go and meet outside. And I remember it was like this park that Wydown Park. It's a little pocket park in our neighborhood, and it was my office. Uh,
Hmm.
I would meet people there, and we would be, on far sides of the picnic table, talking to each other with masks on, even outside, and it was just kind of crazy. But it all worked.
Well, it was a fascinating time to have gone through, but also for the unique challenge of actually starting something during that time must have been really intense. What's harder, by the way, getting somebody to join Vistage or getting them to donate to a campaign?
Uh, it's a toss up, but I think that at least during the time that I was recruiting and it was a pandemic, it's probably harder to get them to join Vistage in a pandemic when they haven't met me in person and that kind of, and they don't, and none of us know what the future's holding. So yeah.
What's been the most gratifying part of being a chair for you, and especially given the extraordinary time that you've been doing it? What stands out for you as sort of your man? That was the best thing.
Well, I just love facilitating the meetings. I love it when the group gets together and that whole collective wisdom thing goes on, and I see them helping each other and collaborating, and it's just, to me, it's just magical. It really is. And I really enjoy that part of the job.
What do your tell me about your groups? You've got two groups. You've got a CE group and a chief executive group and a trusted advisor group. What's fantastic about your groups?
Well, it's sort of in our VCG, it's sort of a joke that I say, I have the best, I have the best groups. It's wonderful. So it is, and I'm sure it's that way now that I'm a little bit more seasoned. I know it's that way in so many, in probably most of the Vistage groups. But I had a TA meeting the other day, and we were doing a little exercise that I had thought of, and it was basically to talk about an ideal customer. Well, this group, there were a group of a couple of them, well, three or four, and they said, we all have the same customer, ideal customer. We could almost make a business out of what we do because he does this and she does that. And, it was just really so much fun. And I said, well, yeah, if you don't make business out of it, which they're not going to, I said, just think of the opportunities you're going to have to refer people to each other and to help people it was actually something about exit planning, essentially.
Right.
And you have all of the things that they need right here in the four of you. So it's really exciting.
What would you say is the, and you can call it an ideal customer, but what are the characteristics of a person that does really, really well in your group?
I think there's a type of personality who really wants to grow personally and grow their business. And they're a giver.
Hmm.
They want to get something out of it, but they also know that they have much to give and they like that. And some of my members have said to me, teaching is the best way to learn yourself. And I agree with that. The other thing is my whole philosophy is I want to create strong leaders who have strong companies so that they can give back to the community. I'm very community minded. And if I can help them be as successful as they can be, it goes back with having supplying jobs in the community, um, being able to maybe financially help a community with their fundraising or with their whatever. So that's what motivates me, and I look for that in someone.
In all of and from the opposite side of it, what are the things that you've had to sort of uh, modify in your approach to in order to be a great chair and especially a great chair for the time that you started doing it?
I just want to make sure I understand the question. How have I changed
Yeah, how
since
have you
the
how have you
time?
evolved as a result of
Uh-huh.
doing this? What was uncomfortable for you, and how have you evolved as a leader in your own regard, having done this?
Mhm. I think the biggest uh, aha moments were when I had uh, brought in some folks who didn't have the mindset that I was looking for. And I thought, well, they'll get it, they'll figure it out.
Right.
And no, it wasn't a fit. And it wasn't horrible, but it was a lesson. It was just a lesson because it's always hard to lose members or tell members they're not a match after they've been in. But now I'm much more exacting in who I'd take a look at.
You mentioned before that you had never been a Vistage member, and you really wish that you had.
Mhm.
Um, what and by the way, so I've talked with a variety of chairs, and some chairs were longtime Vistage members. There were others that heard of Vistage as they were about to go into the process of becoming a chair. So there is quite a variety, and I've
Mhm.
learned that there's no right or wrong way to do it. But for um, but what do you think that you missed having not done this earlier in your career, or
I
having
think
not
I
joined
missed,
Vistage earlier in your career?
yeah. I I think that I had missed a lot. I thought I was the only person who was lonely at the top. I thought that wasn't a thing. And as we know now, isolation is a big deal for just about all of us who have been leading companies. And I went through some really stressful times where I was making acquisitions, then I was selling our family company, and I had nobody to talk to within the company. It couldn't happen. So that was the main thing. And just I had some peer groups of women, but we didn't do what we do in Vistage. So
Right.
that's what I missed. And the Vistage philosophy that you've probably heard, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think that I could have been a better leader in my company had I been in a Vistage group.
And if somebody were to come to you right now and talking about what it feels like to be a business owner and the isolation, and they're thinking of joining a peer group, but they're not sure. Is that how you would respond to them, or what advice would you give them if you were talking to somebody who was really, geez, I just don't know if this is for me, and
Mhm. I would say, take the plunge, do it. And what's the worst thing that happens? You decide it's not for you, but most likely you will enjoy it and you'll understand how it works and you'll find that it's going to be very helpful.
what's what's the thing that your members, or one example of something that your members have actually managed to teach you?
Oh, I learn a lot all the time. I really do. What have they taught me? A lot of things get taught in the individual coaching, because that really fluctuates a lot. It depends on what the member wants to talk about. There's no like agenda or anything. I walk in and I know what we're gonna probably be talking about. But they taught me a lot about different things that can happen in their businesses and um, different challenges that they have. So I think that that's really most of what the learning is. The other thing is how many people have the same issues, have all the same issues. It doesn't matter the industry, there's a lot of commonality.
I can't let you go without asking this, because, we all say, all of us live someplace, right?
Mhm.
And we go around through our lives and we have all of these frustrations, and you say to yourself, geez, if only I was in charge, things would be better. What
Yeah.
what was the so you have had that experience,
I have.
having been the mayor. How long were you mayor, by the way?
Well, there's term limits, and my group, my board of aldermen actually wanted to change the law, the ordinance, so that I could stay on longer. But the short answer to that is I was in office 6 years as mayor. I was in office as an alderman in the city before that for 8 years, so 14 years total. And I want to write a book because I have so many things that I mean that are the backstory of what happens. Everybody's like, they made this decision behind closed doors. No, we never did. But there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes before it comes out in the newspaper or it comes out in a meeting. And there's a lot of research and prep and I'm so proud, and I am so proud. The thing that I'm most proud of is that I was trying to get a smoking ban. Secondhand smoke uh, is really a problem for all of us. And so it's not that I don't think people should smoke. It's like drinking and driving. You can't drink and drive, and you can't smoke in a public place where your passive smoke is harmful.
Right.
Yeah, so I was able to. It's a whole chapter in my book, but what happened and how I had to tackle it. But Clayton decided we would go smoke free on our own in all of the St. Louis city and county. We would be the only smoke free island. And it was so controversial. And I had to use every bit of my leadership skills and outreach and public communication and all of that. And I'm so proud that we did it. And then I was able to work with the city, St. Louis City and St. Louis County, and they followed our lead. So now the entire St. Louis region is smoke free. So I did it and I'm happy. And I didn't necessarily set out to do it when I ran for office, but it was something that I thought was really important.
And so if that was sort of one of the highs of having just that kind of power. What would you say was sort of like a low point or a misunderstood thing about having that kind of office and being looked at for a certain type of leadership?
So I never really had a hard time. I mean, there were times that people said, I don't agree with you, but I always communicated. I made sure that I was out there. I was transparent. I told them what we were doing, why we were doing it. And if you talk to people and you communicate, and they know that they're being listened to. And in the smoking ban, we had a draft ordinance and we said over and over, it's a draft. We want to hear from you. And we had these very robust meetings of the public, but we modified everything. We really got it so that everybody was happy. All the naysayers said, but well, she changed what they're doing and they listened to us, and so it's going to be okay.
I think that's a really cool and unique thing that's part of your story. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of Vistage chairs that have done some really interesting things in their past careers, but we have never had such a high-ranking public official before. I'm
Oh,
honored.
thanks.
Um,
Thank you.
if folks want to get in touch with you, if they have questions about Vistage, they have questions about your groups or what it's like to rule with an iron fist over a town. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, my Vistage email address is linda.goldstein@vistagechair.com. And that's probably the best way, or on LinkedIn, if they want to look me up and message me, that's fine too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun, and I'm
It
so glad we
was.
got to talk.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you so much, Eric.
You got it. Thanks for listening to this episode of ChairWaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. ChairWaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.